I need to tell you about the time my stomach became a performance artist. I was at dinner, nice restaurant, lovely people, and my stomach decided that this specific moment between the starter and the main was the right time to produce a sound that I can only describe as a whale communicating with another whale across a large body of water. Nobody mentioned it. I didn't mention it. We all just pretended it hadn't happened, which is kind of the social contract in these situations, right? But I sat there thinking, when did my digestive system become so opinionated? Because that's the thing, somewhere around like 44, 45, my gut started having opinions about everything. Foods I'd eaten my whole life suddenly disagreed with me. Bloating appeared from nowhere, the kind that makes you look 6 months pregnant by 7 p.m, regardless of what you ate. And nobody told me this had anything to do with menopause. So if your gut has recently developed a personality of its own, welcome. Let's talk about why, because the answer is probably more interesting than you think. I'm Laura, this is the Riviera Menopause podcast, and today we're talking about your gut. Not in a vague, gut health is important type way, but in a specific, practical, here's why you're bloated and what to do about it type way. Because your gut and your hormones are in a relationship, a long-term, deeply codependent relationship, and when one of them changes, which is exactly what's happening in menopause, the other one reacts, loudly, in restaurants, between the starter and main. But why has your digestion changed? Right, a quick bit of science here that will make your bloating make sense. Get ready. You have a collection of gut bacteria called the oestrobolome. Wonderful word, terrible Scrabble score. The oestrobolome is a specific subset of your gut microbiome whose job it is to metabolize estrogen. It helps regulate how much estrogen circulates in your body by processing it and either recycling it or eliminating it. When your estrogen levels are stable, the oestrobolome is happy. It does its job. Your digestion runs more or less smoothly. But when estrogen starts to decline and fluctuate, which is exactly what happens in perimenopause and menopause, the oestrobolome gets disrupted. The composition of your gut bacteria shifts. The diversity decreases, and the result is a digestive system that suddenly seems unpredictable, reactive, and dramatically more opinionated than it used to be. This is why food you've eaten your entire life can suddenly cause bloating, gas, discomfort. It's not the food has changed, it's that the ecosystem processing the food has changed. Your gut's running sort of different software now, and the old inputs don't work the same way. So no, you're not imagining the bloating. No, it's not just aging. And no, it's not because you ate bread. It's because your hormonal shift has disrupted the bacterial community that was managing your digestion. And that's a real, measurable, physiological event. And it deserves more than maybe try some peppermint tea. Because your gut connects to everything. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because your gut is not just a digestion organ. It's a communication hub. And it's connected to virtually every system that menopause is also disrupting. Your gut produces about 90% of your body's serotonin, for example. 90%. The neurotransmitter that regulates your mood, your motivation, and your sense of emotional stability. If your gut microbiome is disrupted, serotonin production is affected, which means your gut health directly influences your mood. Not metaphorically, not in some kind of abstract sense, but biochemically. Your gut communicates with your brain through the vagus nerve. It's a two-way highway running between your digestive system and your central nervous system. When your gut is inflamed or imbalanced, it sends signals to your brain that increase anxiety, worsen brain fog, and disrupt sleep. You've probably heard the phrase gut feeling. That's not a metaphor, that's your vagus nerve doing its job. Your gut's also a major player in your immune system. About 70% of your immune function lives in your gut. When the microbiome is disrupted, immune regulation is affected. Inflammation increases, and as we talked about in an earlier episode, chronic low-grade inflammation makes almost every menopause symptom worse. So when I say gut health matters in menopause, I'm not talking about digestion alone. I'm talking about mood, brain function, immune health, inflammation, and sleep. Your gut is at the center of a web that touches everything. And menopause has just shaken that web. Okay, so what do we do about it? There are 3 things you can do. And none of them is expensive, none of them are complicated, and all of them are supported by good research. Number 1, fiber diversity. This is the single most impactful thing you can do for your gut microbiome. And it's not about eating mountains of fiber. It's about eating a wide variety of plant foods. Different plants feed different bacteria. The more diverse your plant intake, the more diverse your microbiome. And diversity is the hallmark of a healthy gut. The target that research points to is 30 different plant foods per week. That sounds like a lot, but it includes everything. Vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, legumes, whole grains. A handful of mixed nuts counts as 4 or 5. A stir fry with 6 vegetables counts as 6. A salad with leaves, tomatoes, cucumber and seeds counts as 4. You're probably already eating more variety than you think. You just need to be intentional about it. Start by counting. This week, just notice how many different plants you eat. Most women are somewhere between 10 and 15. The goal is 30. And I'm not asking you to reach that tomorrow, but over time. Add 1 or 2 new plants per week and the diversity builds gradually. Number 2 on the list is fermented foods. Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso. These contain live bacteria that support your existing microbiome. The research on fermented foods and gut diversity is really strong. One Stanford study found that a diet high in fermented foods increased microbial diversity more effectively than a diet high in fiber alone. That's significant. A small serving daily is enough. A pot of live yogurt, a forkful of sauerkraut with your lunch. You do not need to start brewing kombucha in your kitchen, although if you want to, totally support that energy. There's one thing to check though. Make sure that whatever you're buying actually contains live cultures. A lot of products look fermented, pickles for instance. They've been pasteurized, which kills the bacteria. Look for live cultures or unpasteurized on the label, and don't assume that because something is expensive, it's better. A pot of plain live yogurt from the supermarket is genuinely one of the best things you can eat for your gut. No fancy packaging required. Number 3, reduce ultra-processed food. I'm not going to be preachy about this because I think the wellness industry has already done enough shaming about what people eat, but the research is clear. Highly processed foods, the stuff with ingredient lists longer than a short novel, they reduce microbial diversity and increase gut inflammation. So here's a useful rule of thumb. If your grandma wouldn't recognize it as a food, your gut probably doesn't either. That doesn't mean you can never have a processed meal. It means that the balance matters. If most of what you eat is recognizable as actual food, things that grew, things that had a face, things that existed before they were packaged, your gut will thank you. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be mostly whole foods. That's the realistic target. A quick word here on probiotics, because I know at least half of you are taking one and wondering if it's doing anything. The honest answer is maybe, but probably not as much as the packaging suggests. Most over-the-counter probiotics contain 1 or 2 strains of bacteria at doses that may or may not survive your stomach acid and reach your intestines. Many of them have limited research behind the specific strains that they contain, and the ones with the flashiest marketing are not necessarily the ones with the strongest evidence. That doesn't mean that all probiotics are useless. Some strains have decent evidence for specific conditions, but a broad-spectrum probiotic bought because the label said gut health is unlikely to do as much as consistently eating 30 different plants per week and having some yogurt. One costs you 30 to 40 quid a month, the other costs you a bag of mixed veg. If you want to take a probiotic, fine, look for one with a specific named strain that have been studied, and be skeptical of anything that promises to reset or heal your gut in 14 days. Your microbiome is an ecosystem. It responds to sustained, consistent inputs, not a 2-week course of capsules. Your one thing this week, count your plants. That's it. Keep a tally on your phone or a scrap of paper, and every different plant food you eat, vegetable, fruit, nut, seed, herb, spice, legume, grain, mark it down. See where you land by Sunday. No judgment, just data. And next week, try to beat that number by 2. Your gut is waiting for variety. Try and give it some. I love this topic because it connects so many of the things that feel separate. The bloating, the mood, the brain fog, the immune system, they all lead back to the same place. This community of bacteria that's quietly running an enormous amount of your biology. And it's a community that you can actually influence, not with expensive supplements, with what you put on your plate consistently over time. Next week, we're going somewhere personal. We're talking about the woman in the mirror. The skin changes, the hair changes, and the disorienting moment when your outside stops matching how you feel inside. It's a conversation about identity as much as it is about collagen, and I think it needs to be had. But if this episode made you look at your lunch differently, send it to someone, preferably someone whose gut has recently started having opinions. I'm Laura, this is the Riviera Menopause, and your gut, it's been trying to tell you something. It's time to listen. But for now, that's me signing off with love from Monaco.